Welcome back. This next video is how to create a case note and to notify key staff members of the case note and some additional guidelines as they pertain to case notes. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to search for the client in which the case note is being created. As a quick relevant note here, there is the ability to actually create multiple case notes of the same case note for multiple clients, and you can do that by what's called batch records. Over here you'll see that there's a case notes batch records button. If I was to click on that, it would open up an actual case note form just like the one that I'll be showing you shortly. And what happens is you fill out that case note. You then pick the clients in which are involved and save the record, and it automatically connects all those relevant clients to that same case note. So for the case note form itself, it's located in the clients folder. So I'm going to go in the clients folder for Bob Boberson here. And here it is, the case note event, and referral system. We're going to go ahead and create new. For the date of contact, it automatically fills out, but if this is not the actual date in which the interaction occurred, please take the time to update that. And then with the location of where it occurred, we'll say it occurred here. And the agency that is creating or updating the case note, 99% of the time it's going to be Community Action Network, and we actually have it set up so that it defaults to that option. But if, let's say, you're from a different agency but yet have access to the database and the ability to create case notes, you would select that relevant agency. And then the program in which the case note is relevant to, and so in which it can apply to multiple different programs depending on the circumstance. Just again, click all that apply. You have the option of adding other, and then you can just write in what that additional circumstance or program might have been. And if it's not pertaining to any specific program, then you would click NA. Quick note on this button here. What this is specifically for is for CANS after-school programs. It is an ability for the person that's creating the case note to notify any key site personnel of this specific case note. So it's kind of and that occurs through built-in email triggers to, again, specific people. For the purpose of this exercise, we're not going to be using that. But down here is the bulk of what happens with the case note. You'll see that there is a certain format in which we do ask that our case notes be completed in. It's in this update, need, action, follow-up format. So kind of as a general description, the update portion is just describing the objective aspects of the case, of the interaction, and ultimately updating what had transpired. The need portion of it being what was the identified or perceived need based on that update. The action is the specific things that either the caseworker, one of the caseworker's colleagues, or the client, or a combination of the three are going to be doing following that. And then the follow-up is specifically notes when in what circumstance and point in time in which the relevant staff people will be following up with the client or with whatever the contents are for the case note itself. We do actually have a built-in example case note down here. So for example, with this example case note being, client reported that he has been unsuccessful in working on his resume since the last meeting. He shared that he has been having health problems that have made him tired. He reports, I have barely left the bed. This worker explored for further information attempting to determine immediate health risks. Client reported this is related to chronic illness, but says this is worse than ever. Need being here for resume and job search. There is potentially some additional health-related needs as well. But for this specific case note here, the action as it pertains to the resume and job search, the action being this worker met with the client in office at Bryan Community Center for about an hour. This worker and client worked on updating resume. Regarding health complaints, this worker encouraged client to follow up with his primary physician as soon as possible. And then here we have the established specific follow-up time, and in the circumstance here you can see when that was scheduled and the circumstances for that to occur. So when creating the case note, it does help to have that same setup. So let's say update, and then so that it will look something similar to this. Alright, so now that I saved this record, I have created the case note. But let's say I wanted to take it a step further and I want to notify certain key staff that might need to know this information or be helpful for them to know that information. So if we scroll down here, you'll notice this one section called Case Note Notification. And if we click on that tab and it opens up, what this will do is send out an email with this information that has been created for the client to the indicated personnel. So the first thing we need to do is we want to make sure that when we save this record that it sends out that email trigger. So we're going to say yes. If it's internal communication, a release of information is not required. But if for some reason that this communication was going out to some outside agency, we do need to make sure that there's a release of information on file, and preferably that is within this client's Apricot record. And so for this purpose, let's say it's an internal communication. And then here, this is for the person that had created the case note, your email. And what will happen is that when you do save this record, it will send you a confirmation that the record went out. And if there was additional instructions that you wanted to pass along to your colleagues, this would be an opportunity to add those additional instructions. If there are none, and quite often there are no additional instructions, it's more of like a heads up, this is the case note, and I'd just like you to know about this information. You just say something like see note above. We do have some of CAN's long-term employees for built-in notifications here. So if you were to click on any of these, and once you save the record, it will send that communication to them. But if you do not see the person that you'd like to include in that email trigger, you have this additional fields to include that information. And so for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to send an email to my personal email as the recipient of that case note. So then now once I save this record, it'll actually shoot out an email trigger to this Miller DA32 email address. And then in addition, the dmiller@canannarbor.org email address will receive a confirmation. So now, if I open up here we go. And so again, it just shows that here that it was sent, and it was sent to that person. If I wanted to access that record directly from the email, I can click on this link, and it'll take me directly to that case note. And then if I open up the other email address, here's the case note event notification. In here, you'll see that who was sent by, that person's email, and then the body of the case note instructions. And same deal where if you click on the link below, it'll take you to that case note that was created. So doing case notes in general can be pretty tricky, and so as kind of an additional source of assistance in trying to troubleshoot how to do case notes, we do have built-in guidelines. So if you go to the My Shared Files here on the left side, you'll see here there is this tab for case notes, and then there's these CAN case note guidelines. And if you download it and open it up, you'll see some really good guidelines as to the circumstances in which you create case notes, the language that you use for case notes, things of that nature. And so And there you go. That concludes the video on how to create a case note and some of the methodologies behind case notes and how to notify any additional colleagues that might need to know information regarding those case notes.